And this week, the Honda Civic. And this really is a return to form for Honda. This little hexagonal design, and it's repeated from the lower part of the grille outside. There's dual zone air conditioning. There's a couple of USB outlets, a fairly high speed wireless charger for your phone, and a 12 volt spot for your dash cam. There's no USBs up top, which I think there could be. And this back seat has really surprised me. Now, I'm just a shade under 6 foot, around 180 centimeters. I've still got headroom, not much, just a couple of centimeters, but it feels spacious, even though it's all black. But I've got this much space between my knees and the seat in front. This just feels really spacious, yet cozy. The seats are comfortable, the front seats are electric, and the reversing camera, though it's clear, not terribly high resolution. The exterior looks lovely. It's knocked off some of those over-designed bits from the previous generation, the bits that apparently I was the only one in the world that liked. But it was lovely. It was, you know, it had swoopy bits and angles and corners. Oh, now hang on a sec, let me just set this. You might notice, although I've got built-in navigation, I am, there we go, recent searches, save places. Right. Okie dokie. And so the outside of the new model is smooth. Well, certainly smoother than the old model. There's just the one. They've gotten rid of the sedan now because that just wasn't selling, so we've just got the hatch, which is actually fine by me. And I'm just going to slip this up into... Power is from a 131 kilowatt engine. It's a 1.5 turbo, which is, it seems a little bit mild, but it does feel very nippy. The transmission, one of my pet hates, it's a CVT. Now, in the recent HIV, I gave it such a panning because, quite frankly, it was awful. Awful. This one, though, is quite different. It's quite a different kettle of fish. Clearly, it's either it's programmed differently or it's a more expensive system or something. But whatever it is, it's better. And so I think you really could go for a weekend away. You know, even take the family. And the range is this model, the petrol model, the hybrid model, and the Type R. The Type R is newly released. This has been around for 18 months or so. Hybrid a little bit more recently. And they've tried to correct some of the things that were starting to diverge. Honda technology was starting to fall behind. For example, they've gotten rid of the lane watch system. And that used to be a camera over on the passenger side mirror. And when you turn that indicator on, it'll bring a picture up in the center console screen. And that was great. It was innovative for when it was released. And I don't know, it must be more than a decade ago. But now you've got to have blind spot monitoring. This car does. This has got the full suite. It's got lane centering and lane change assist and blind spot monitoring and all of the very fancy ADAS systems. And you expect that for a car of this price. What Honda's done, though, is they've taken themselves out of the entry-level race altogether. The only entry-level car they have now really is HIV, and at the prices they're charging for that, it's not an entry-level price. This, at least, doesn't feel entry-level. This feels premium. Whether you like the design or not, the materials are lovely. The steering wheel's lovely. The surfaces are soft. They have cheaped out a bit on the back doors. The back door plastic is really scratchy, very scratchy. Then we get on to performance. It's not fast, not by any means, but it does feel like quality. Now, because I've got this in sport, it's held the engine revs at about 2,500 revs at 60, which is quite a lot. If I put it back into normal, it's dropped back to around 1200 RPM. And that's what you want for a city car, because, you know, this is a city car. Because this is a Japanese car, the indicators are on the right side, which is the right side. I've got brake hold, so I can go up to an intersection and put my foot on the brake. The brakes will stay applied until I apply the accelerator. Then off I go. I'll just turn that off. It's got an electronic parking brake. Then we get to the ride. The ride is firm. It's quite firm. But I like it a lot, and I think after the disappointment of the HIV, this feels sophisticated and grown up. The steering is absolutely beautiful. It has that feeling that you used to get in an old sports car. It felt direct and light, yet precise. They've managed to capture that somehow, so the electric power steering is beautifully calibrated. So the one thing Honda was known for was engineering. The engines, the suspension, the handling, and so forth. Even their really rubbish cars had fabulous steering and suspension. And I think over progressive years, Honda had sort of lost that. They were... a series of things knocked Honda off its perch. First there was the GFC, and then their tyre factory got hit with a storm and flood, and they never seemed to really recover. This feels like they've fully recovered. The sound system, absolutely. I'd turn it up for you, but YouTube will have a fit. The sound system is absolutely fabulous. It's Bose. It feels properly elegant and deep and rich and beautiful. The cabin, surprisingly, despite the fact that they've got acoustic this, that and the other, is not as quiet as I would have thought. There's acoustic glass and lots of sound deadening, but the tyres, there's quite a lot of tyre noise. It's not unpleasant, I just mention it for purposes of accuracy. Oh, it really is just beautiful. This feels like driving one of Honda's old sports cars. And if you're wondering why I keep making a reference to old, it's because some of those cars actually drove better than some of the new ones. So the good things are, I think it's very handsome. I don't miss the sedan at all. At all. The space is quite good even in the back. The luggage space, not too bad. Well, it is a hatchback, so you do get the advantage of having a decent size, although a lot of it's divided off with the cover, but you can take that out. There's the issue of the CVT. I personally could never buy a car with a CVT. But unlike the HR-V, which to me was a little bit of an unloved child, this has got so many good points. Wireless Apple CarPlay, that sort of stuff. Doesn't have DAB radio. I'm getting my radio through my phone using data. So I'm going to stations from anywhere in the world. Listen to podcasts. The voice control for Hey Siri works extremely well. On the freeway, we were ticking over at about 1100-1200 revs at 110. So it would be very economical on a trip. Instrument layout. Everything is exactly where you expect it to be. There's paddle shifters which simulate gears. And if there's one thing annoys me in a CVT, which doesn't have gears, is paddles to make it have gears. Why not just put in a normal automatic? As far as the luxury appointments are concerned, the seat fabric, not leather, it's a mixture of leather or leather-like material and Alcantara. I actually prefer Alcantara. It reminds me of the fuzzy fabric we used to have back in the 80s and 90s cars that I remember so well. Well, that's all this week for Honda Civic. I think it's a really fabulous car and a return to form for a company that was starting to disappoint me just a little bit. As always, hit like, leave a comment, and just there to subscribe.